That's not good.
Well, I'll say this.
I mean, is the African Union...
There's forces in the African Union, and there always have been, you know, who want to do the... I don't even say want to do the right thing, but they like the idea of that big structure working. But functionally, we've been dealing with it for a long, long time now, and it's become unwieldy. And of course, the funding comes from people who aren't exactly interested in your unity.
So how does that work with Burkina Faso?
The people who aren't interested in your unity, you're dependent on to do the African Union, make it work, and then when you run into problems, you shouldn't be surprised. Jacob Zuma's wife, who was the president of it at one time, was the head of it, and she said coming into office very clearly, and I don't know if they didn't, I'm sure they didn't like it, but she said right off the top, this thing is funded by someone else, even though she was, you know, the leader, which I thought was kind of courageous for her to say. So, you know, when they bring you the bread and you eat it, you follow them where they want to go. But that doesn't mean there's not people in it, initiatives in it that I think could work. But you know, it's like any other organization. Who's going to take it over? You know, we criticize a lot of organizations. My mother used to say, she said, look, any organization you criticizing, you and about 5 people could go in there and take the whole thing over. Black organization. That's actually true. You come in, put your energy in something. I would say AU is a big structure. I wouldn't, you know, try to do it. But generally, our organizations, you know, we can come in and steer them just about in any direction we want with some energy. Because, you know, so I'll leave that.
That's a shrine of the Black Madonna energy coming from your mom.
Yeah, my mom.
Yeah, that was a great infrastructure for many of us.
Yeah, my mom. Yeah. Okay, should I go down and ask about the food?
I'm sorry, I don't want to get between us and our food, but I do have a question just about imperialism. You talked about African Union and also just the unity of Africa. I'm familiar with Gaddafi and what he was trying to do, the work that he was trying to do, and how President Barack Obama, whose father was from Kenya, he undermined a lot of what Gaddafi was trying to do, the work that he was trying to do. And for the students, I'd like for you to talk a little bit about like what imperialism is and how even we as Black Americans, or at least in nationality, if not in genetic origin, can be agents of imperialism in how we show up on the continent.
I love this brother questions, man.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's very easy to be agents of imperialism, just like it's easy to be agents of things inside the U.S. that run counter to our interests. You know, somebody is always offering you a piece of cheese. You know, the question is, you're going to take it. Now, imperialism, of course, that's a big subject. It's not just African. Imperialism is a system that has affected the world. The way it works here, see, in the old days, they used to have the guns and the gunboats and all of that. But that got a little bit ugly over time, so you know they sweetened it up, and now they use international financial institutions. But they're all designed to do the same thing, which is to maximize their profit and maximize your suffering. You know, and the reason I say maximize your suffering because that's an inevitable result of just being systematically ripped off forever. You know, so as a system, you know. Been working a long time. A lot of people in the world are growing up and growing out of it, becoming strong enough to shake it off. So I think you all see breaks and a lot of these other kind of loose. They're loose now, but basically what they represent is getting out from under the Western imperialism that's been going on for the last several centuries, and we'll see where all of that goes. But to talk about different people who have basically worked against our interests, you know, you don't have to start with you know, an American president. I mean, there's people all over Africa because a lot of it is really just about the money. A lot of it is really just about fear, and a lot of it is just about you know. And as far as the men, and this is something we talk to. It's like if you're in Los Angeles, or you know, wherever you are, and you got a nice house and you got a little pool or you got a little something. A lot of times That's all the manhood you're looking for. You know, you're not trying to challenge other men in the world. You know, it doesn't bother you that, you know, they got all this stuff and you don't. You know, as long as you got something relative to the brother down the street, you're cool. Now, that's a whole nother thing. That is a mindset that we get from young. You know, we look around and we get in our mind that we are never going to be as powerful and as sovereign, as independent, and as impactful as the other men. And once we internalize that, then selling out ain't no big deal. So, in fact, half the people will say, you know, if it was my shot, I'd do the same thing, because it becomes a material consumption-based thing as opposed to a power-based thing. So they've redefined power for us as consumption, and the brothers have taken it and run with it. And we got to redefine all of that. You know, people can't come. They talk about Niger with the uranium, and I forget the numbers now, but it was something like the international price was something like $300 and something per kilogram. The uranium back then, and the French were taking it from Niger for all of these decades and decades for something like $8. You know, and they're powering all of it, and that's just one obvious example. So, you know, when Niger finally pulled out, they say, we're cutting off this uranium. And you can imagine everybody in the world ain't trying to get their gold, copper, coltan, uranium, and all the rest of that cut off and pay those prices for it. But we have to look at it as men and say, we just as men just can't let them run us like that. You know, and we're supposed to raise our children to think we just not those type of people that you can run an obvious game on and we just gonna sit down and wait for you to cut us a little card. Ain't gonna work. Everything in the card comes from us. So, you know, we'll decide. But if you're gonna do that, then that means you're gonna have to make some other sacrifices, you know, and so that's the socialization that we're not getting. We have to do it. We're gonna have it. You know? So I know that's a long way around your answer, but imperialism, I mean, that's a big question. And like I said, I wouldn't necessarily point to Barack Obama necessarily. I mean, I don't know if any of you have ever seen, there's a General Wesley Clark, and Wesley Clark was head of the European Command of one of those type of things, and he was on one of the shows later on. I think it was Amy Goodman who does democracy now, and he was explaining that they had a plan to go after each one of these countries. You know, Iraq, Libya, Somalia, Syria, and every president who came in is like a relay. He got the stick and then they ran and did the next one. So, you know, it wasn't, you know, it's not this president or that, it's not this. You know, they said this is what we're trying to do. And of course, the last one that they were supposed to attack and take over was going to be Iran. And if you go down the line, Somalia, they got it. I mean, we didn't see it in the news, but they did. Sudan was one of them, and of course, you see what's going on there. They've got, that's in mayhem. Libya was one, and that was I think that just happened to be on Obama's leg, you know. But if it wasn't Libya, he'd have done something else. So it wasn't even the black thing, you know what I mean? And everybody just, when you got the baton, who was next on the menu? And that was your job. And so you run that leg, and you know, sometimes. So that's why I say the list is so long of people who would, you know, are willing to do the work with other people that we could be here all day trying to run that down. And a lot of them are our most popular people too. So unfortunately, so people. Well, I don't want to. Some things I don't want to say.
You know, it's going right to YouTube.
Huh?
It's going to YouTube.
You said Oprah.
Yes.
Well, no, I'm just saying, you know, people. I try to look at the ones that don't do harm, and say at least some people don't do a lot of harm, but most of them do the harm they're assigned to do. Now somebody want me to go ask about food, or is another question?